All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakaha Kodash. Edible honors unto the apostles and elders of James Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakim, bringing out this word in diligence and the truth. And now, as you see here on this article, it's from In Town Headlines again, and it reads Amazon hopes to replace 600,000 U.S. workers with robots. And so this lets you know, as the title of this lesson tells you, man, they want you fully dependent on or upon their system, right? He wants to make it to where the average person can't even work, right? When Elon Musk, I believe, I forgot who he was in front of, but I know basically he was giving an interview or was being interviewed and stated, you know, he said, well, we want robots to, replace people in the sense of workers. So the man asked, well, who would be the ones that would still have jobs essentially? And he said, oh, no one wants to see robots play sports. Nobody wants to see the robots in the NBA or playing basketball, going to football. So all that he was saying is he ultimately, and the agenda of the elites, hey, they just want Jake or niggas, you know, the Goyim to only be in the position of working if it's by the ability of what's the word, shucking and jiving, so to speak. If you're in the position of um, I can't think of the word, entertainment, call on Yabashim Shah. That's the sect that they will want you in, just to entertain them, which is really, as we always been saying, our higher class slaves, so to speak, right? So let's get into it. It says Amazon hopes to replace 600,000 U.S. workers with robots. Hey, that's over half a mil, man. Over half a million. And we understand that Esau is working his way to try to hit this goal with things increasing such as AI, robotics, so forth and so on. And well, he's not stopping. It says in a recent report, Amazon is reportedly pursuing a sweeping automation strategy in the U.S. aimed at avoiding the need to hire hundreds of thousands of workers, which means what, avoiding the need to pay hundreds of thousands of people and avoiding the need to take care of hundreds of thousands of families. That's ultimately what it boils down into, man. Right? People call out sick. A robot only needs rebooting time for updates or to be charged, right? So it says, according to leaked internal documents and interviews cited by The Verge, Amazon hopes that its robotics and automation efforts will allow it to bypass hiring more than 600,000 jobs it would otherwise have to hire in the U.S. by 2033. Right? It says in a document, the company's robotics team is reportedly working toward automating up to 75% of the company's entire operations. Right? Which goes to show you that all these people who are currently working at Amazon, they will end up getting fired, man. And have no way to feed their family. But the elites want this because they want to usher in a UBI, right? Universal Basic Income, right? Which is done by a central banking digital currency, man, a CBDC. Right? It says in the document, the company's robotics team is reportedly working toward automating up to 75% of the company's entire operations, with projections of eliminating approximately 160,000 U.S. roles in 2 years, man. Right? So let's grab some precepts. All right. This is coming from the book of Ecclesiastes 12. I'm going to start here in the third verse. It says, in the days when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. Right? So here it is. That grinding is ultimately the working class or the workman, right? And we understand back in the ancient days that grinding was done every day because the custom of making bread was an everyday occurrence. So when a grinder ceased or those mills stopped running, it showed forth a time of destitution. People were destitute of what? Of meal, of grain, which means people what? They were poor. They were poorer than before. They couldn't afford that victual anymore. It says, because there are few, and those that look at the windows be darkened. It says, and the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low, man. So we understand this is we're coming to the point in time where not only people aren't able to work, but where your dollar isn't stretching as much as it was. Hey, we're on the brink of an engineered famine. And how is Esau engineering it? And well, ultimately, him cutting forth those SNAP benefits is making it for some people very hard for them to eat, right? Which falls back on you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but also on Edomites, man. Because they're a part of the welfare and SNAP benefit system as well. And that's just what November is approximately. Next week. Next week, Saturday, is the start of so-called November, man. So we're gonna see a bunch of hell, you know, uh, in your streets, man. People are already, looting certain stores and stealing from certain WalMarts and so forth. But it's only gonna get worse the closer and closer we get, and that's what the scripture tells us, man. Pray that your flight be not in the winter, right? Because here it is, bills are gonna be higher. People need heat in the cold, but people are being evicted, right? Because they don't have that money, because they're not getting a good enough income, right? It's Isaiah 19 chapter. I'm gonna start here at the right here. So I'm gonna start here at verse 1 second. 15. But I want to go also up to, yeah. So I'll start at 15 and I'll go back up. Right. This is Isaiah 19 and 15. It says, "Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do." And that's what they're showing you clearly here, man. It says one striking financial metric. The report suggests Amazon sees automation saving it about 30 cents on every item it warehouses and delivers to customers, with total savings in the range of $12.6 billion from 2025 to 2027. Because Esau is all about profit. This goes to show you that he doesn't care about you. But yet people still try to defend the so-called white man. Esau don't give a damn if you starve. He don't care about your kids. And he don't care about the state of your quote unquote mental health. That's why you see a lot of people crashing out, man, because their job is ultimately to put you in a corner to where you submit. When you were playing wrestling with one of your cousins, and they say tap you, make you tap out, put you in a certain chokehold, and you got to say uncle. Hey, well, Esau is doing that to the population, man. He's making them tap out. He's stringing certain limbs in order to break you, right? And through that breaking process, he's going to through that breaking process, a lot of people are just going to literally put out their hand and accept that MOTB, the CHI to the P, that he's about to give out to quote unquote give you your life back, right? Says Amazon expects its sales volume to roughly double in the U.S. by 2033. Yet it appears, and how so? When people aren't going to be able to buy it, you know, the average middle class person is struggling, man. Says the report says, yet it appears determined to meet that growth not by proportionally increasing workforce size, but by deploying more automation. There it is, right? So they expect to see more sales, ultimately income, by decreasing workforce size of manual labor and deploying more automation, right? It's an opportunity cost. Yeah, you have less manual hands, but now you have less people you have to pay out. So the profits that you get from selling items, it directly goes back to you. It doesn't go back into the population. It says the leaked documents show a sense of urgency, avoiding hiring hundreds of thousands rather than simply hiring more humans. Amazon is reportedly leaning into automation plans that will enable the company to avoid hiring more than 500,000 US workers. Right? It says, for example, the company has explored participating in community projects and avoiding terms such as automation and AI, instead using softer phrases such as advanced technology or calling robots that work alongside humans cobots. Right? Basically, making you feel good as they're stripping your shit away from you. Right? So to go back here in the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter, in the seventh verse, sixth verse. It's fifth verse. And the water shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted up and dried up, slacking. And they shall turn from the rivers far away, and the brooks of defense shall be emptied and dried up. The reeds and flags shall wither, the paper reeds by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. The fishers also shall mourn, and all they that cast angle into the brook shall lament, and they that spread nets upon the water shall languish. Here it is, you have generations of families who've been fishing, whether it be crab, even though we understand that's going off. Nevertheless, you still have generations of people that have done these jobs, these careers, and they're not getting the same increase that they once were, due to overfishing, due to the waters being toxic, and the fish and shellfish that they bringing up being radioactive. So guess what? They're not making as much money. Fishing was once an occupation in which you could make a good living. When we go back into our apostles, and we see that they were fishermen, right? But when it came for them to do the will of Yahweh Shem Shah, the scriptures tell you that what? They straightway put away their nets. So it shows that that profession did, allow you to live a decent lifestyle, make a decent living. But in today's economy, and in the way that Esau has destroyed the earth, destroyed the waters, the air, so forth and so on, hey, the fishermen are now mourning, right? Those that cast that angle into the brooks are lamenting. Then you also have the scriptures speak about I believe it speaks about the Mississippi River. I believe it says the Euphrates or something to that extent, right? And that's being dried up as well, right? And that's a big hub for commerce, man. A lot of shipping containers and revenue is brought through that Mississippi, man. You know, and with the fact that it's drying means those boats can't enter into that harbor anymore, which means what those shipping containers aren't being brought to trucks, or being put on trucks anymore. So now you have income or revenue being dissipated that way, right? But I want to grab this as well because for E, it's a way to. This is just another method of control, right? As they say, you will own nothing and be happy. And well, that's what the elites want because it makes way for this. This Isaiah 36:6 says, Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him, right? So it says, Lo, thou trustest, right? Trust in the staff of this broken reed. That staff is a support system, right? And we already see these people are trusting Slakin. And who? Both the left and the right. The left is hoping that the right fails and that the left is brought up high, and the right is hoping that the left fails and the right is brought up high, right? So both sides are ultimately fighting against one another. As the scripture speaks about a house divided shall not stand, right? But they're still both trusting in that system. They're still both trusting in that support, right? Of the broken reed, showing you that support system is meant to what? As it says here, on Egypt whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. That system is meant to destroy you, is meant to hurt you. It says, so is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him, right? So they're going to get you in a position of where you're begging, for the new what's the word, bomb, so to speak, you know whatever it is that they can bring for the people to get their lives back. People are literally going to be begging, much like when the government shut down some years back or whatever, and you had the NDOs basically saying, please, Mr. Trump, bring it back, right? Crying, begging, because what they trust in this staff of this broken reed on Egypt, and that's going to be to their detriment. Because as we know in the scriptures, it's like I gotta grab it here. Let me go to the Apocrypha. It's coming from the book of Sirach, 13th chapter. Right, this Sirach 13 and 4, it says, if thou be for his profit, he will use thee. So he is doing this to see who's actually going to be down for him, right? But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee, right? And he knows that you're just going, just a body. But if he can profit off of that body, that's exactly what he's going to do. He'll give you your 100,000 merits, like in the movie Black Mirror, man. He'll give you a 100,000 credits, for you to feel comfortable. Hey, but guess what? Now he has the power to take or to give or take as many away that he wants. Now you're literally in the palm of his hand, you know? And with you trusting in that system and receiving that charagma, hey, you're through. Because now you got to be destroyed by Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. It says, if thou have anything, he will live with thee. Yea, he will make thee bear and will not be sorry for it. If he have need of thee, he will deceive thee. Much like the 19, he told you what? All you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, in that order, right? Y'all got to get this first. We care about y'all, right? So that was the deception. Does not the scripture speak about in Isaiah the 55th chapter? Or it's like, I believe, 51. Matter of fact, let me check it really quick. It says his words were smoother than oil, yet they were drawn swords. I think it's 51. 1 second. Psalms 55. So like I said, Isaiah. There's Psalms 55 and 21. It says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Right? So he's going to say and give forth that appearance of that docility, as the scripture says, speaking as it's like the appearance of a lamb, but he spake as a dragon in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? That's that deception. He will deceive thee and smile upon thee and put thee in hope. He will speak thee fair and say, what wantest thou? What you want? What you need? I got you. Not knowing there's an ulterior motive behind it. As the elder Shaquat in this camp always says, man, the devil always wants his money back, right? And Esau, he changes not, right? Does the Ethiopian change his spots? I'm just like, does the leopard change his spots or the Ethiopian his skin? Neither those that are accustomed to do evil good, man. This is his nature, right? There's 12, right? It says, but cruelly he will lay up thy words and will not spare to do thee hurt and to put thee in prison. Matter of fact, 11, affect not to be made equal unto him in talk, and believe not his many words. For with much communication he will tempt thee, and smiling upon thee will get out thy secrets. People gonna tell them all that they need. Oh, my son need his shoes. My kids gotta go to college. I need my rent. I need my food. Now you told him everything that you need instead of trusting Yahweh Bashem Shai for him, to give you what's a necessity for thee, right? And from that point, he's gonna dangle that carrot in front of your face, and put you in a position of where you're barren, and he's gonna give you crumbs. Really, it's gonna be less than crumbs because he's gonna have your soul. And as the scripture says, what does man profit if he shall gain the world and lose his own soul, man? So that's the point, man, right here. The replacing of 600,000 U.S. workers with robots, and that's just Amazon. That's not to mention, the rest of these career fields and or jobs. Everything is going to be automated, everything. So we're all going to be in a position of where, we'll have to live without, and so be it, man. This is just what comes with being a man of the Lord and understanding. Better is the end of the thing than the beginning thereof, right? We understand that this wickedness that was sown has to be plucked up, but it can only be plucked up with great violence. And as the scripture tells us, with great violence should city Babylon be thrown down. So that's pretty much the point of the lesson. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying into the body. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah HaKodash. I double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakin bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. Shalom.